Welcome back to My Inner Anchor. Thank you for coming back. Thank you for joining me. If this is the first time you're listening to the podcast, hopefully you've gone back to episode 1. That was much more of an overview, what to expect from the podcast, as well as a brief overview on my story and how I came to find this, what I'm calling the inner anchor, as well as the still point that we're talking about. This episode particularly is talking about something that sits right at the heart of this whole thing. The idea of the still point, that quiet place inside you that doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, it doesn't get pulled around by everything happening in your life. It's always there, even when you can't feel it, even when life feels loud or overwhelming. And before we go any further on that, I just wanted to make a bit of an important difference and distinction, one that shapes everything that I'm going to say over the next few weeks on this podcast and what the inner anchor stands for. The difference between the inner anchor and your still point. So your inner anchor, as I see it, as I call it, as I've termed to name it, is that deep-rooted, unshakable, raw, primal you. It's who you are at your core, who you are at your core being. Your still point is the moment you return to it, how you access that person, how you center yourself again, how you get that access point to your true self. So across this episode, we're going to explore what the still point is, how you can find it, how you can return to it when you need it most. Naturally, I'll be talking about my experiences, how I came to lose mine, how I found mine again, and all those kind of things. So I thank you again for joining me. So when I talk about a still point, as I mentioned in episode 1, this isn't about being perfectly zen or calm or peaceful or perfectly balanced at all times. That's not reality. It's not who human beings are. We aren't that person in white flowing pajamas, skipping through a field and, being perfectly zen at all times. That's not being human. Your still point isn't a mood. It's not a performance. It's not a vibe. It's the moment where you reconnect with that deeper part of you that doesn't move when life does, that isn't impacted by everything that goes on around you. And here's where that difference matters. So your inner anchor is permanent. It's the steady center inside you that stays the same even when everything changes around you. It's who you are at your core being. Your still point is temporary. It's the breath, the pause, the moment of clarity where you feel that inner anchor again. You find that. I guess it's a bit like the eye of a storm. The storm being distractions in life, they can be wild, chaotic, unpredictable, but the center stays still. Your inner anchor is that center. It is that eye of the storm. Your still point is the moment you step into it. Most of us forget it's there. We get caught up in the storm. We get pulled into the noise. Get lost in the rush of life. But the still point never leaves. We just lose sight of where it is. So as I mentioned previously, there was a time in my life where I didn't even know if I had a still point. I was constantly moving, constantly pushing, constantly trying to keep up with everything that was going on around me. I got myself distracted. I put those up, and I was happily being lost in the noise of life and the rush of it. Between working full time, doing the Just Push Play event and everything that entails when you're a small team or a matter of just me and Jay putting on an event like that is a huge, huge take up of time. And to do that alongside full-time work is pretty intense. And not only was I doing that, there was times where I was working at another festival. I was doing my radio show. I was going to the gym. I was training martial arts. I was doing all these different things to keep myself distracted, because when my brain was busy with those, I didn't have to focus on what had happened, and I could try and find a norm. On the outside, I looked absolutely fine. I was functioning. I was doing what I needed to do. I was showing up. I was going to work. But the truth is, inside I felt really disconnected, ungrounded. like I was living a life that wasn't mine, that I wasn't really being a part of my own life. I didn't realise it at the time, but I'd completely lost touch with who I was, who I wanted to be, where I wanted to go. Not who I was at my core, because I think we all know deep down who we are. So I hadn't lost my inner anchor, but I had lost my still point. I had lost that ability to connect with it. And the thing about losing that still point is, at first, certainly for me anyway, it took me years to realise, you don't notice that you've lost it. You just feel tired, or overwhelmed, or numb, or like you're constantly bracing for something. It's a real sense of disconnect. I was here but not here. I was in situations where should be present and I was somewhere else. I wasn't feeling like I was in my body, and I'm sure I'm not the only one to have experienced this. And I kept running like that for a number of years. I didn't know how to get back to who Lee was. I'd lost him. And I'm sure we all lose ourselves at times, through various reasons. I want to clarify that anything I say is not me trying to outdo anyone else's experiences, but I can only talk from my standpoint and my point of view. Whatever you've gone through in your lives is no less or no more than what I've been through. It's just what you've experienced. This is my story a bit, as well as trying to showcase, what I found helpful and what the inner anchor means to me, and hopefully how you can find yours and your still point to get back to who you are and who you should be and who you want to be, who you are. As I said, when I was doing all these distraction things and being part of events and taking on challenges, and I was running around, when I look back at it, trying everything to find myself, find an access point. When I look back at it, I was searching for it, but I wasn't doing it in the right way, because I was still trying to run away from the thing in the first place. Run away from what was scaring me. And as I mentioned in the last episode, it took me hitting a real point where I simply couldn't outrun it anymore, where everything came to pass, the noise got too loud, the pressure built up, and all it took was a conversation with my wife on a beach for everything to come pouring out. And I had to stop. Not because I wanted to, but because I had to. And in that stillness of just being with my thoughts, that uncomfortable, unfamiliar stillness, it's not natural for me. As I say, I was getting distracted myself with so many things. And I thought I was doing well because these things were positive things. It was all good things. Some people distract themselves, and I'm not judging, because I've got friends who have been through this sort of thing, but they distract themselves with drink and substances and ill behaviour, and we all do things what we just do to get us through a day. And I can completely understand numbing that mindset. Initially when my dad passed away, I was definitely drinking too much. That's a given. But because I'd gone past that bit, and I was now just keeping myself busy, busy with work, busy with Just Push Play, busy with other events I was involved with, busy with gym, with martial arts, with radio show, with the podcast for the music side of things, with 24-hour radio challenges, I had to stop to deal with the thing that I was running away from once and for all. And being still, I realised how far I'd really drifted from myself. I really did leave that 22-year-old man behind and just kept running. Kept running from my grief, kept running from myself, kept running from him, kept running from certain friends and family. definitely kept running. But in those moments, I started to find myself again. And it didn't happen in a big, dramatic transformation where I woke up and saw the light and suddenly it was all zen and perfect. Because that's not what happens in life. There was no big revelation, no lightning bolt, no sudden moment of clarity. It happened in a series of small moments. In meditation, in journaling, in breathing, in a pause, in a moment of sheer honesty with myself. In a moment where I truly just let myself fear and feel instead of fighting everything I'd been fighting for 15 years in my head. I remember one day, just after I had one of my CBT sessions, and it had been a very emotional conversation. Very emotional. Anyone who's been through any kind of CBT exercises will tell you it really does challenge you to look at it. And one of the exercises was to try journaling, try meditation. And in my head I thought, I don't know if I'm ready to write this down yet. I'll try meditation. I'll just be. And I'd done meditation in my life through some martial arts and things like that, but I hadn't done any in a long time. So I just sat there. No music, no distractions, no TV, no noise. In fact, I think I was the only one in the house. And for the first time in a long time, I was truly present and with nothing but my thoughts. And I felt something shift. It wasn't relief, it wasn't joy, it wasn't necessarily peace either. It was just presence, of feeling here, a sense of being connected to myself once again, to being in my body again. That was my still point. It was quiet, it was steady, it was uncomplicated. I did a very short 3-4 minute meditation because I didn't know if at that point I would have the bandwidth, if you like, to do a deeper meditation. And as I came through it, and I'd allow everything to come in that I'd kept back at arm's length for so long, I started to process things. And it wasn't an instant thing. It was little bits and pieces, like I say. But bit by bit, I started to find that still point again. It was quiet. It wasn't a big reveal. It wasn't this big, huge revelation. It was just being. It was not distracting myself. It was facing a lot of things. It was being honest about my part in those. And once again, I felt like myself. I'd always said that, when my dad died, I couldn't be that person anymore. Because too much had happened. Too much had happened for him to ignore. And in a way, that's true. When anyone experiences any kind of trauma, you're never the same again. You can't be. Because something shifts inside you. And anyone who hasn't been through an experience like that won't necessarily understand where I'm coming from. And I don't just mean grief. I mean any kind of trauma. There were other things I buried and I thought I'd got away with. Thought I'd sorted them out in my own head. But I hadn't. But too much had happened to that guy at 22 to keep being the same person he was. It was too far gone. Too much had happened. And that's why I always said I couldn't be that guy anymore. But I also didn't allow him a chance. I didn't sit with him. I didn't give that 22-year-old Lee what he deserved. I found another thing. I found another personality. I found another person to be. And I ran away. At the time I thought I was moving on. But I wasn't. I was just running. Then 15 years later, after I'd done some work on myself, I'm not saying I'm the finished article, I'm not. I've got a lot of work to do. A lot of work to do. I started to find my still point again. And it was in all the things I mentioned. But it was in a few more that shifted my mindset. It was in meditation. It was in journaling. It was in breath work. It was in just being. It was in going for a walk amongst myself and not being scared of my own company. Because I was terrified of being on my own. And the irony is, I actually quite like my own company. That's not to say I don't love the people I'm around. I love them to bits. But going for walks around where I live, there's a wooded area, and I've had a kind of fascination with trees since I was a kid. And just walking along and being in my own thoughts has been some of the best time I've had whilst finding that still point. It had been there the whole time. I just didn't know where it was. My own anchor had been there the whole time. I just didn't know how to access it. But now I'd found my still point again. I knew how to access it. And I knew how to realign. There are so many things that pulls us away from our still point. Some of them I've just expressed, like grief. But it's stress, it's expectations, it's overthinking. It's being a people pleaser. Returning to old habits that just don't work anymore for you. It's fear, it's shame, the pressure to be fine. Trust me, if you say to anyone you know and love, and you're talking, ask them if they're okay twice. Because the pressure to be fine is huge. We've all felt it. And your mate says, "Hey, keep it, man, you alright?" And you go, "Yeah, I'm fine." And you're not. And they know you're not. But if you say you're fine, we as human beings don't know how to sometimes ask again, even if we know that person probably isn't okay. We know our friends really well. We can sense it when other human beings aren't, right? I was really fortunate that someone asked me twice. I'd gone through the thing in Cornwall. And then I was at work. And I'd walked past our HR department. And they had the office door open. And I don't know if my colleagues in HR will want me to mention them by name, so I won't. But they know who they are. They know who was in that day. And I happened to walk past the door, and it was Halloween time. And they had the office all decorated. And I popped my head and go, "Oh, this looks great." They said, "Oh, come in. How are you, Lee?" And I went, "I'm alright." Then they followed it again. "Are you sure?" They saw it in my eyes. We can all see it in people's eyes. So if you see it in someone's eyes, just say, "Are you sure?" Give them the acknowledgement that you're actually listening. Because when people are struggling, and they aren't fine, the last thing they want to be is a burden. I've been there. And I'm sure you have as well if you're listening. There's a real pressure to just be fine. That English stiff upper lip rubbish that doesn't do anyone any harm. So allow people to know that you're actually really interested in how they are. You're not just, for want of a better term, going through the motions. You actually do care. Because I promise you 5 minutes of actual genuine conversation would have a huge lift to that person's day. So that's something that pulls us away from still point. That pressure to be fine, to be strong, to keep going even when you're physically and mentally exhausted. Sometimes it's external stuff, sometimes it's internal stuff. Often it's both. And the thing is, losing your still point, it doesn't mean that you've failed. It doesn't mean that you're weak or that you're broken. It means you're human. You can't stay anchored all the time. That is not what I'm not going to promise you that if you listen to this podcast, you'll be purposefully always anchored, always know where to go, always know how to tackle things. You won't. I don't. I still have moments where I wobble off. But I recognise them now. Through CBT, through counselling, through a lot of internal work with myself, through some alternative side of things as well, with meditation and journaling and some crystal stuff and some chakra work. You know, I've found ways to access that part of me. Now, not all of these tools will be for you. But if you get one thing out of listening to this, isn't it better to have one more tool in your arsenal than not? One more way to find yourself again? I'm not going to say you're going to listen to this and feel that you're perfectly zen for the rest of your life, because that would be a lie. No one does. Losing it just means you're human. And we all are. And it's okay. It's okay to be human. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have a moment where you feel like crap. It's okay to have a moment where you're angry, where you're sad. But we all know the trouble as human beings only comes when that moment becomes an hour, which becomes a day, which becomes a week, which becomes a month, which becomes 6 months, a year, 15 years. The inner anchor and everything you're about in this podcast and what I stand for isn't about not losing it in those moments. It's not letting those moments take over. Feeling the emotions is fine. It's good. It's normal. If anyone tells you that they've never been depressed, they've never been pissed off, they've never been angry, they've never been sad, they're lying. So, if you've done some internal work and you've had a rubbish day, don't think that you've gone backwards. Because you haven't. You've probably actually acknowledged something you wouldn't have acknowledged before. Something that you would have buried. Don't bury it. Now you're probably thinking, Lee, you're waffling. How do I find my still point? There's a few ways you can do it. And none of them require perfection. None of them require you to be calm before you start. And none of them require you to fix anything. Sometimes it's about just bringing yourself back in. You know, slow your breath. Not deep breathing necessarily, just slow it down. Let it soften. Inhale gently, exhale slowly. Feel that breath go through your body for a few minutes. Notice what your body's doing. Pay attention to it to ground yourself. Your body is always present in the moment. Your mind can be anywhere. We've all been in meetings or anywhere else in a conversation and your mind just wanders, it just goes. And you're sitting in a pub with friends talking about mortgages, but your brain's on a beach with a cocktail. Or you're in the meeting talking about your next quarter at work, but your brain's at a festival you went to. Or you're in the gym lifting weights, but your brain's thinking about what you're going to have for tea that night. We all do it. So notice your body, feel your hands, feel your feet, feel your weight being supported, and just acknowledge it. Bring it back to self. Bring it back to center. You know, for me, one of the best grounding points for me is either walking by trees or walking near the sea. There is something about me putting my feet in the sea that ultimately brings me back to self. I don't know what it is. It's probably why when I go to Cornwall, Joe and I will make sure we're on the beach twice a day. And if we go up to St. Nectan's Waterfall, if you've ever been to St. Nectan's, it's beautiful. And if you haven't, please go check it out if you're out down Cornwall. But, while we're there, we'll put our feet in the water. There's something about it for me that ultimately grounds me. You'll all know what grounds you. You've experienced it. Somewhere along the line, something happened and you went, wow, I really feel like I'm in my body now. So notice that. And also, name what's there. Name what's there in you today. If it's upsetting you. You don't have to, if you want to talk to a friend or a family, talk to a friend or a family. But you can just acknowledge things. Not to judge it, you don't have to fix it, but just that acknowledgement that it's there. That'll bring you back to self, because you're no longer pretending when you acknowledge it. Say, I feel tired, I feel overwhelmed, I feel disconnected, I feel shit, I feel angry, I feel okay, I feel unsure. Actually, I don't know how I feel today, but something's not right. Naming it and acknowledge it brings you back in the moment. It brings you back to being present. And that's absolutely fine. To acknowledge anything you're going through. You can create a moment of stillness. Just a moment. Not a meditation. Not a ritual. Just a pause. If you're getting overwhelmed, something's happened at work, or, in your personal life, and you just start to think, I don't know what's going on, and you can feel that ball starting to roll away, Pause, breath, a quiet minute, a moment where you feel that you're back in the room. That's fine. And if everything's getting overwhelming, just ask yourself one question. What do I need right now? Not overall, not what's the big plan, but in this moment, what do I need right now? Not what you should need, not what you're supposed to need, what you need in that moment. Is it to step out of the office for 2 minutes and just go find a quiet spot, do some breath work, get yourself back centered, and then go and attack it? Is it going for a walk on your lunch break? Is it going out to the gym in the morning and having some exercise before? Is it some great food when you get home and getting yourself lost in there? Is it blasting out your favourite song on the way home and singing your lungs out at the top of your voice? Whether badly or not, it's what I do. One of the things. Is it going walking by the sea on a weekend? Is it just taking that time with your family? Is it a hug from your wife when you come home? Or your husband? Is it getting on a bike and just cycling and having that time? Is it for a walk on your own? Is it a walk with friends? Is it a pint down the pub on a Friday and a bloody hell, boys, I've had a shite week? Whatever it is, do that in the moment. Because you're worth that. We all put things in the way of doing what's right for us, for fear of others, especially those with family and kids. I can't do that, the kid's doing this, the kid's got football. Got to take the girls swimming, need to go do food shop, need to go sort the car out. I've got this bill to pay, I've got that. You know what it is? It's all distraction. And that's not me saying don't spend time with your kids, because I'm sure they give you all a lot of joy. It's saying that sometimes we do need to just take a moment and say, right now, I'll take the boy to football, but right now, I just need a quick blast of this. I just need to realign quickly. And it doesn't take any more than 2 minutes. We did a bit of breath work last time. So make sure you always acknowledge what you need. And do it, because you're worth that. You are absolutely worth whatever you need in this life. Now, let's take a moment to find your still point together again. So, if it's safe to do so, and as I said last week, please don't do this if you're driving. Maybe do this bit later. Just let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw loosen. Let your breath slow down to that natural pace it will. Take a slow breath in. and let it fall out naturally. Feel that weight of your body being supported, the ground beneath your feet. Feel it centralizing. Feel yourself arriving. Another breath in. And out. Imagine a small point of light at the center of your heart. That quiet place inside you that doesn't rush, it doesn't panic, and it doesn't get pulled away. Imagine that light there. With each breath in, imagine that line growing slightly brighter, not intense, just present. Now breathe in. Imagine it grow and get brighter, and out. This is your still point, the door, way back to your inner anchor. If thoughts come up, let them drift past. You don't need to chase them right now. Just be in this moment. You don't need to fight them. Just be present in your still point. Breathe into that space. Hold it. Let it steady you. Release it slowly. Take one more slow breath in. And release it. Here you go, guys. There are many other ways you can find your still point, and you'll all know what your access point is. We know deep down. For me, it's breath work, it's meditation, it's journaling, it's acknowledging how I'm feeling, it's being honest with myself, it's gym at 6 a.m. in the morning, sometimes earlier, it's cooking, it's reading, it's being in the moment, it's a walk with my wife, it's getting my feet in the sea, and all of these points just bring me back to where I am, who I am, being in the moment. It brings me back to myself, back to my body, back internally. Yours will be different, but you know what they are. Could be playing golf with friends, playing basketball, going for a walk, going out on your bike, going out on your motorbike. It could be painting. It could be writing poetry. It could be standing at a music concert. That's a very good one. It could be blasting out an album you love from when you were a teenager. It could be a moment of just being on your own, walking on a lunch break, noticing kids play in the park, or dogs barking, or taking your dogs for a walk, or it could be anything. You'll know what makes you return to self. And I hope this podcast has helped you reconnect with that still point, even if just for a moment. If this episode spoke to you, please feel free to follow, to subscribe, share it with someone who might need a moment of calm or grounding. Next time, we'll be talking about something we all experience. Those moments when life just gets too loud, too overwhelming, or too much. Until then, remember to take a breath, take a moment, and access your inner anchor.